you had forecasted that Bitcoin would reach a cycle top in Q4 of 2025, with a price range of prediction of around 130,000 to 155,000, somewhere in that range. Has anything shifted this prediction for you, or is that still what you're expecting from Bitcoin for this cycle? Do you think it might take longer? Do you think it might go higher, lower? Like, what is your prediction for your forecasted path for Bitcoin right now?
Yeah, I mean, we kind of got close to 130 already. I think what did we hit, like 126 or something?
Yeah.
Um, I think there's like a scary chart and there's an optimistic chart. The scary chart is this one. This is the ROI from the low for Bitcoin compared to the last two cycles. Like, this is normally when it tops out in terms of ROI as measured from the low. But one of the reasons it looks like this is because in the 2013 cycle, the 2014 bear market actually lasted 1 month or a couple of weeks into 2015. So the low, instead of being in like a late 2014, is being measured from early 2015. So the pessimistic way to look at it, and if this way is correct, and I don't think anyone hopes that this way is correct, if this way is correct, then there is no alt season, right? Because it means the high is already in, and usually when the high is in, alt season then starts immediately, or at least within a few days. But a more optimistic way to look at it is to take the ROI from peak to peak and say, if you compared that to the 2017 cycle, it would still suggest that we could still have one more move up, kind of towards the end of the fourth quarter of the year. Now, and you can see structurally, like, these two cycles look really similar to each other, right? I mean, the downturn, you can see the low in 2015 happened after the low in 2022 in terms of like where in the cycle. And that's why when you measure it from the low, it looks different. But generally they increase together. And recently we've fallen off because we would expect diminishing returns, right? So here's the thing. In order for Bitcoin to get this move higher, we need to see a liquidity rotation back into Bitcoin, right? We need to have a defensive rotation. We need for people to recognize that Bitcoin is the reason we're here and not all the other cryptocurrencies. And if they can do that, and if Bitcoin can go to a new all-time high, then it could theoretically lead to Ethereum going to all-time highs. My base case is that Ethereum will go to all-time highs. But here's the thing. There's a difference between Ethereum going to an all-time high and it going to an all-time high that it can actually hold for more than a few minutes, right? If Ethereum were to just go up to 5K and sweep the high again and then drop again like it did last time, that's not going to lead you to an alt season, right? In order to get an alt season, you have to have Ethereum hold 5K. But again, you can't have that unless Bitcoin is going up a lot more and liquidity is flowing back to the king. So that's how I see this whole thing playing out. Like, right now, we're at a very precarious position for Bitcoin. And what I'm looking for, so there's no ambiguity, is the cycle. There's still a reason to be optimistic as long as Bitcoin is holding above the 50-week moving average. Every prior bull market for Bitcoin, when you had 2 weekly closes below the 50-week moving average, the cycle was over, right? That was it for the cycle. So that's what I'm looking for. If you get a weekly close, 2 weekly closes, right now it's about 102K, so about $10,000 lower than where we currently are. Weekly closes below that, I think you just have to cut your losses and say, all right, well, the cycle's over. Too bad. Too bad. That's all we got. As long as we stay above the 50-week moving average, then there still is reason to be optimistic. The good thing for us this cycle is that a lot of times, the 50-week moving average is pretty far down from the all-time high, but right now it's only $10,000 below where we currently are, right? Like, so if in a worst case scenario, where the cycle's already over, there should be confirmation of it at not too much of a lower price, theoretically allowing people to kind of get out and salvage as much as their portfolio as they can. Because I do think the top will be in the fourth quarter. Okay. And I think that next year will be a bear market. And that is something I've continued to be somewhat deterministic about. Top is this quarter. Next year is a bear market. If you want to hold anything in the bear market in crypto, besides stables, right, it should be Bitcoin. I would certainly get out of altcoins for 2026. If it plays out like the 2017 cycle, then you might see altcoins run into really early 2026, like the first week or two. But I would not, I certainly would not be holding altcoins, March of 2026, because usually by that point in the cycle, they're doing nothing but getting wrecked. So what I'm looking for Ethereum to show strength, to rally to an all-time high, and for a rotation out of altcoins back into Bitcoin, right? So you can have Bitcoin and Ethereum kind of going up simultaneously, kind of like the blue chips, right? And then the other aspects of the market will likely continue to lag until Ethereum can hold 5K.
Okay. I have some questions about the lengthening cycle. I want to save that for later, but just to summarize on Bitcoin before we move on to ETH, you're saying that you are expecting a new high from Bitcoin. You're saying that if we get confirmation below this 50-week, this around 100K, that would be your call for a bear market with no alt season, but you're not expecting that. So I think that's helpful context on framing your thoughts on Bitcoin. Let's move now to Ethereum. Ethereum dropped about 30% during this flash crash. You posted a video about this saying that now that it's sufficiently wrecked, it can go to a new all-time high. Walk us through your outlook now for Ethereum in Q4. What path are you expecting it to follow?
Yeah, I think I drew out a path a long time ago, but essentially, we get these 30% drops or so, like to the bull market support band in September, October of post-halving years. And then what typically follows after that is the final rally into the market cycle top. So that's what I'm expecting. I'm just kind of expecting a final rally into the market cycle top for Ethereum, where it holds support at the bull market support band. I think, I could be wrong, but I think that the low for Ethereum here is already in. Like, that doesn't mean it can't have some residual drops where it finds support here at the 21-week EMA. Like, if you go back to the 2017 cycle, you can see that's kind of what happened in the month of October, right? Ethereum had this drop back down, and then it just kind of stayed there throughout the rest of October, and it didn't really start moving until mid-November. So, and again, while Ethereum was going sideways, Bitcoin was actually going to all-time highs during that time. And then that was how Bitcoin dominance was able to go up, is because Bitcoin was skyrocketing and everything else was just going sideways and not really moving a whole lot. So I think that, if this defensive rotation persists and we can get it on a Bitcoin rally, there's a really good chance that the altcoin market will not immediately follow. Because think about how many people just got wrecked in altcoins, right? There's going to be a lot of people that are going to be a little nervous to throw a lot of money at alts when they're worried they're just going to get wiped out again. So when that happens, you get these defensive rotations. And that's why I'm saying now, I think Ethereum is going to go to all-time highs. I do. I will, I'll be the first to let people know if I think I'm wrong on that. But I think it will. I think that, right now it's going through this process of trying to confirm this level as support, kind of like it did in 2021, right? Like right here, you can see there's a couple wicks down in September of that year, maybe even into early October. And then again, same thing in 2017, where you had it holding support even into early November. So base case for me is that Ethereum will go to all-time highs, but at the same time, there's a really high chance that it's going to lag Bitcoin for a few more weeks.
Gotcha. So you've spoken about this 5K price level for Ethereum as being the sort of line in the sand that you want to see it hold for alt season to come and to really get that movement. Why is this the key price level for Ethereum, and why is this the key price level for the altcoin market? Is it just because it's a new all-time high for ETH, or is there some other reason in the charts that you're seeing that 5K is so important?
Yeah, I mean, if all Bitcoin pairs were to go, were to stay down here at the range lows on a Bitcoin dump and not a Bitcoin rally, then you're not going to get an alt season, right? Like in 2019, when alt Bitcoin pairs went to the range lows, you did not get an alt season after it, but it was because it was happening on a Bitcoin dump, not a Bitcoin rally. So in order to have an alt season, you have to have a Bitcoin rally first, where dominance goes to all-time highs. But because we cannot know for a fact that it's a Bitcoin rally, that it happens, and not a Bitcoin dump, the best thing to hold is still Bitcoin right now. Because if it's a Bitcoin rally, you're going to outperform alts like crazy. If it's a Bitcoin dump, like, yeah, maybe Bitcoin dumps another 10% or something in the short term, in a, you know, if it goes to the 50-week moving average. But altcoins in that scenario would probably drop like another 50%, right? Kind of like they did last Friday. So I think like none of us can possibly know the ultimate outcome here for Bitcoin. I mean, obviously we all hope that it goes to an all-time high. Like, I mean, who wants it to drop? Like, I mean, I would love for it to go to 140K, 150K, even higher, right? I mean, who doesn't want to get rich holding an asset like Bitcoin? But the reason it makes it so easy not to hold altcoins is because the direction of the altcoin market after they were devalued against Bitcoin simply depends on Bitcoin USD's path from now until, say, like early November. If it's a dump, there's no alt season. If it's a rally, there could absolutely be an alt season. But again, the way you preserve the Satoshi valuation of your portfolio right now is to hold Bitcoin. The reason I say 5K for Ethereum is because that would reflect an all-time high, right? I mean, we need a 5K ETH for Ethereum to get at all-time highs. And a lot of these major moves in the markets before, for like the quote-unquote alt season, typically happen after Ethereum goes to all-time highs, not before. So you could argue that one of the reasons altcoins have lagged so much this cycle is because, I mean, Ethereum only just hit an all-time high back in August, right? But normally the August high is a local top that then leads to a local low in September or early October. So again, in order to get the rally to 5K, Bitcoin has to go up. In order to get all season, Ethereum has to go to 5K. So when you back out that entire process, in order to have alt season, Bitcoin dominance has to first go up, because it would imply Bitcoin going to an all-time high. So I don't think it makes sense for people to sit around and root for Bitcoin dominance to go down, right? If you truly want an alt season, then the only way it's going to happen is if Bitcoin USD goes to an all-time high in the next couple of months and Bitcoin dominance goes up with it. If both of those things happen, then I will even come out here and say that you could have an alt season, right? And that's saying a lot, because I mean, for the last 4 years, I said it's not, you know, people are premature and that alts are going to keep going lower against Bitcoin. And they just did, right? On Friday, they put in a new low against Bitcoin. And again, once again, everyone's like, well, no, that's now the low and it can't go lower. But they've been saying it for 4 years. So again, when you back out everything, in order for people to get what they want for alts to rally against Bitcoin, we first have to see liquidity return to the king.
Want insights on what's moving crypto markets and how we're trading each event? Subscribe to our channel and join the Milk Road Daily and Pro newsletters and start investing like the top 1%. This show is for educational purposes only. Nothing we say is financial advice. Investing is risky. Never invest more than you can afford to lose.